It should be, this takes a second to load. Okay, here we go. Okay, so we're live on YouTube, and then let me go ahead and just let everybody in. It'll be pretty casual. I didn't send any questions because I wanted it to be more of a conversation.
Sure.
But I'm going to go ahead and let everyone in. Usually I start with just some introductions. So I'll say hello to the audience for about the first 10 minutes or so while people are coming in, and then we'll jump into the conversation about what you do. And people will probably have questions about Legato and the new music sync technology that you're working on. So
Sure.
I'll leave about maybe 15 or so minutes towards the end so folks can ask questions if that works for you.
Yeah, that works perfectly.
Okay, cool. So let me go ahead and let these folks in. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Bethany. Hey, Manuel. Hey, James. How are you?
How are you?
Long time no see. How
I
have you
know.
been?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Steph, this is James. He runs a record label out of, where are you located again? Houston?
No, I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yeah.
Yeah, 40 Records. Yeah.
And
Nice.
he works with a lot of
Hello.
artists who create like very timeless music. Like, what would you say the not the genre, but more like the era of music?
Like classic 80s.
Nice.
Classic
Nice.
80s.
Yeah, James worked with one of our Finesse Media artists a while back named Brianna Knight, who is so talented.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
James,
I'm about to release that video soon as well. Yeah.
oh,
So
awesome.
yeah. So I had to do kind of pretty much do this the sync thing. That's why this is really interesting to me. I had to go to Sony and get the permission, get a license to kind of do get the video done. So
Yeah,
Nice.
it was an interesting process. So interesting
it
process.
is.
So it's that's why I said I wanted to hear more about it, because I want to do it again. So so I have another song that I was just listening to. I got approved the track today. So
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
yeah. So
James, I always appreciate you. You always send over so many artists to us. So I always appreciate it.
Oh yeah, yeah. You're needed. Your service is so needed. Ever since I first met you, I was like, wow, this is something that I wish we had when we were younger. But it's good that I like to. I really enjoy sharing your service with the artists that come my way, and have a lot been joining in.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
We haven't done as many. So hi everybody, by the way. I'm Alexi. I'm the founder and CEO of Finesse Media. We haven't been doing as many of these meetings. We used to do them on a week-to-week basis, but I have taken on another project.
Right,
so it's been a bit hard for me to do it every single week, but we're getting back into the swing of things. And
We love it. We love it though.
Yeah, I've been wanting to see all of these lovely faces. So yeah, thanks James for joining. And if anyone would like to introduce themselves, we obviously have our special guest Steph here who I'll introduce in just a bit, but I know we have some familiar faces. Slozy, welcome back. It's good to see you. How you doing?
Oh, my son Danny in here.
Who said that? I'm not sure who just said that. Was that you, Slozy?
No, that wasn't me, but hi, what's up?
Slozy, where are you from again? And what kind of music do you make?
LA. I make sort of like indie rock, alt rock kind of stuff. However, as of recently, I'm starting to actually get into managing some other artists as well. And so I feel like my music isn't the most syncy type music. There's like the right places for my cute little indie pop songs, things like that. However, like now I'm starting to represent some like more cinematic pop clients and like, sort of like more producers type people. So it's a lot of fun.
No way. That's so cool. Congratulations on starting to manage. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. It's great to see you again, Slozy. Amelia, I see your hand is raised. You want to introduce yourself? Hi, welcome back. Oh, you're muted by the way.
Hi, sorry. I'm just using Zoom for the first time on my phone and I'm like so different than laptop. But hi, it's been so long. Stephanie, it's thank you so much for, I don't know, doing something like this. To be honest, like reading about you, I really want to like get into the role that you're in and do a lot of like sync placements and learn how to get like how you got basically to where you are. Because right now I'm working in the music industry, but I want to like challenge myself more. And I think I've always been interested in that kind of field. Currently based in Toronto, Canada. But I'm a singer songwriter as well. And but you know, I want to dabble kind of in everything. And I feel like that's something that kind of would be something I would like to explore. So I'm excited to hear your journey. And yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, Amelia.
Yeah.
Awesome. I see a ton of other familiar faces. Does anyone else want to introduce themselves? Hi, Maria. Hi, Emily. Hey, Black. Maria, I think this is the first time I'm seeing you on the call. Would you like to introduce yourself?
This Maria? Because there's usually a lot of Marias.
Yes, you, Maria.
Okay, hi. My name is Maria Lozano, and I've been actually in the music industry for this year, 30 years. So I've seen a lot and I've done a lot of syncs in my life. I just want to see what the new generation is up to and what I worked actually for Sony Music for 11 years, Sony ATV, the publishing, and also worked with a few artists. So Slocy, if you need some tips or stuff like that or anything that you need, I'm your girl. So look me up.
I will 100% take you up on that. No doubt, no hesitation.
And anybody, actually, I really do want to mentor the new generation too, even though I have my own business and I'm involved in several other stuff, but I would love to mentor whoever needs it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Maria. So nice to meet you. Awesome. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Emily. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. I've been out of the music industry since COVID, but I'm still very much interested in following it. I'd like to get back in at some point. I did see that they're hiring VIP reps at my old venue, so I applied for that. I've got a job interview tomorrow for like a major theme park. So I'm really
nice.
excited about that. And so the side of the business that I was on was specifically the live venue side, and I have no idea what sync is, so I'm here to learn.
Oh, cool. Well, Steph is going to tell us all about sync today, so we're really excited.
Okay.
Emily, it's great to meet you and to have you on. I think this is the first time I'm seeing you on here. Cool. Jared, my boy Jared, what's good? Jared, do you want to introduce yourself really quick?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Jared Olua, producer, vocals, sync facilitator, doing workshops and stuff, teaching everybody what they need to know before submitting to sync licensing supervisors, agents, and libraries. And yeah, shout out to you, Alexis. And then also I saw Slozy the other day at NAM, and
Yeah, what's up?
now I see where I know you from because we were on the Finesse Media joint
Yeah.
last time. So I'm like, now I see him here. So I'm like, okay, shout out to Alexis for that, for sure.
Yeah,
Cool.
nice seeing you.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy whenever I see that you all are connecting outside of the Finesse Media events. And I just dropped, speaking of which, I just dropped the contact sheet in the group chat on the side. So if anyone does want to connect with each other, I always drop contact sheets. This is the best thing that you could, well, not the best thing. This is one of the best things you can take from our Finesse Media events. So please drop your information and connect with others through there. I see some other familiar faces and some new faces. Also, real quick, if you do have your mic unmuted when you come in, please just make sure to mute it upon joining. That way there's not an echo. But anyone else want to introduce themselves before we go ahead and get started? Wet Lava Boy.
Yes.
What's
Hi.
good, Dre? Hey.
How are you? Hi, everybody. I'm Dre, also known as Wet Lava Boy. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And I'm excited to learn more about sync. I've connected, thanks to y'all, with one music supervisor. So I'm excited to just like learn more, connect with more people here. And yeah.
That's awesome. Dre, by the way, are you Filipino?
No, I'm half Ecuadorian, half Dominican.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
Yay.
I'm
Lots of
Ecuadorian too.
representation.
Cool, cool, cool. I love it.
That's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, anyone else? If not, we'll go ahead and get started. I know it's late for many of us on the East Coast, so we'll have a shorter event today. No? All right, cool. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining, and shout out to Maria who said she's Dominican. Hey. So again, I'm Alexi. I'm the founder and CEO of Finesse Media, and this is our Music Sync event with Stephanie sorry, I'm not as good at pronouncing the R as Guerrero. So we are very excited to have her. She has worked at Universal and Sony Music Groups and has worked with amazing, talented artists such as Jaden Violet, Alex Purdy, is that right,
Yeah,
Stephanie?
yeah.
Sammy Arriaga and Caspiel, and will be chatting with us about Music Sync and a new Music Sync technology today. So I'm really excited to introduce her. Stephanie, do you want to wave hi so everybody can see you?
Hello, everyone.
Awesome. Let me pin you really quickly. I'm just going to pin both you and me so everyone can see you. And then basically what we'll do today. So today, for everyone who has not been to a Finesse Media event, essentially what I usually recommend is take some notes. You'll learn a lot about this new Music Sync technology. We're going to talk a lot about Stephanie's background. And then towards the end, we'll have a Q&A. There is no listening session today, but we'll have some listening sessions in the future, so just stay tuned. But yeah, Stephanie, I would love to just thank you for joining us. Obviously, we had a really great conversation, and to those of you in the audience who aren't familiar, one of the reasons why I brought Stephanie on is because she does some amazing work for the artist community, both in Web 2 and Web 3, and is working on a technology called Legato. So Stephanie, maybe you could chat with us a little bit about what you do and how you got into the music industry, and then we can get into the technology itself.
Sure. So I actually got into the music industry because I just always loved music and I always loved technology. When I was 10 years old, my dad just gave me a bunch of like pieces for a computer and told me, if you figure out how to put this together, it's your computer and I'll show you how to connect it to the internet. And so I did it because I was like, yes, new toy, let's do it. And my dad left me alone on the internet at 10 years old, which I do not recommend. Now that I'm a parent myself, I will not be doing that with my children.
Now that we have smartphones now.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I will not be doing that. But it was really cool because I got to meet a lot of people and, you know, I learned a lot about like how to just join communities and it was very fun. And then the other thing I always loved was music. So that was my sort of like my two worlds colliding and I always loved it. When MySpace came around, I was like, yes, I would tell all of my friends who had a band, I was like, I'm going to do your page for you. Like, let me code it for you. I'll make it cool, a lot of colors. So I learned like a little bit of HTML coding and I was all about it. And I don't know, it just really intrigued me, this whole world of promoting things online and promoting music online. And of course, you know, as any kid my age, like I downloaded a ton of music. I pirated basically a ton of music. And then when I joined, you know, the music industry, I started working at labels. I realized like how damaging that was. I saw like how we lost a whole creative generation because of the pirating. I survived rounds of layoffs. And I think the reason I survived is because I was a kid out of college who got hired, you know, for a much smaller wage than other people. And it was really devastating for the music industry. And it was sad too, because I saw musicians, like I saw very talented musicians just basically take on other jobs. You know, there was a musician I really loved and she just started working for an airline and she just retired working at that airline. And to me, that's very sad that like the world never got to see any more of her music because it just wasn't viable for her to live in that world. But there I also saw like the rise of streaming. I saw the launch of Vivo, like I don't know if any of you maybe remember this, but in the beginning of YouTube and the music videos on YouTube, they were just uploaded by random people that would like upload the music video on YouTube and that's how they were being played. And eventually, you know, when YouTube kind of finally struck a deal with like the labels and the publishers, they took everything down and they relaunched Vivo. So I went through all of these like pain points, right? Like we had to teach the community and also artists that this is how their music videos were going to be uploaded on YouTube. And then we did the same thing with iTunes. It was like, well, people are going to have to go to this website and buy your track or physically go to a store. So I've done a lot of onboarding, and I feel like people forget that that's what we've been doing. And now that I'm like on the Web3 side of things, a lot of people keep like, they just keep preaching like, we just need to make this easier, make it easier. And in my mind, I'm like, this has never been easy. It's just always taken a ton of time. So as of about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I left the record label life and I joined the Web3 world. And the main reason for that is just I realized that the environment I was in wasn't really allowing me to grow. Like I wanted to go more in the technology side of things, and I was very much kind of stuck in the same like release cycle every week. You know, release cycle every week, like spinning wheel, and I couldn't get off it. I wasn't really servicing artists like I wanted to, and I was very much stuck in this like optimizing for consumption and best marketing kind of practices instead of actually like looking for what's good for artists. And I don't know, it was just not a good place to be mentally. So I took a step aside and I said, you know what, let me learn about this Web3 thing and figure out what it is. And now that I've been in this Web3 community, I have met so many beautiful people. I've realized how important and how impactful like independent artists could be. And how much more they can play with things, you know. And I remembered all of these pain points that I had working at a record label, even for syncs, was that there was like it was hard to clear tracks because you know you needed to get a hold of all of the songwriters, and it was and sometimes, you know, and it happened more than I could count, is the one publisher, the one contact that we needed to clear a particular track was off on vacation, and so we couldn't get a hold of them until like a week or 2 weeks later. And sometimes business was lost. I mean, other times all we had to do is just bump a release date, but other times the business got lost. And so that definitely complicated things for all of us. And so that's kind of where I ended up with Legato, because I firmly believe that there has to be an easier way. It shouldn't be this complicated. And I want people to be able to license their music as easy as possible. And also like to allow people who want to license music. There are tons of people that maybe want to license music that don't know that they can, simply because it's so complicated. And so on both sides, I just want to make it simpler.
Yeah, that's awesome. For those of you, because I know we have a lot of folks in the audience who are familiar with Sync and a lot of folks who are not familiar with Sync. For those of you who are not familiar, we do have a ton of YouTube videos from previous events. This is part of our Sync and Music Supervision series. So if you get lost at any point, feel free to drop a question in the chat or save it for the end. We'll get to you a little bit later. But some folks in the chat said that they remember Vivo when it started. That's awesome. Yeah. So Steph, you have a really awesome background because you have seen the technology evolve. And I'm sure some folks who have been in sync, like Maria in the audience, have seen the technology evolve from before the internet. So what have you seen in the music sync world that is changing with the Web3 space and the type of technology that you're using right now?
I think what's interesting is in the Web3 world, we've created a new type of product, right? So whereas before, people just kind of, we define like streaming is going to be a mechanical license or it's going to be a performance license. Like that's how we defined it as, or it's going to be both. In Web3, there's so many more layers to it, right? Because sometimes people are selling an NFT that includes licensing rights. So if you've bought the NFT, you have the right to commercially exploit the song, and with no commitment to actually get back to the artist. So I think that's what's really been interesting about this new environment, in that there's a new type of product. Like now this product can do very many things. You can sell NFTs that give the holder the rights to use the lyrics if you want to. You can give them the rights to use, the song for sync licensing if they want to or not, or even create another NFT, which is like, that's the most boggling mind, is that all of a sudden there's new avenues of licensing. Also, all the old ones still exist, plus we've added like another layer of complication.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to rewind a little bit because I know not everybody is familiar with NFTs or Web3. For those of you who are not familiar with Web3, Steph, do you think you could explain a little bit about Web3?
Yes. So I'm just going to define Web 1, 2, and 3, and then I'll go a little bit into it. And if anybody has questions, like feel free to ask. So Web 1 was the original internet where you would literally log on and just read websites. Think of it of just like an encyclopedia. And then Web 2 is where social media got introduced, where people were sort of exchanging information. You could comment, you can change back and forth, or in this case, Wikipedia, right? Like people could crowdsource and continue to it. And now Web 3 allows the users to own Wikipedia, basically, right? So everybody can kind of put something on this shared ledger, and then you can sell it and people can buy it, and ownership is not centralized in one place. Whereas like Facebook, for example, Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, well, all the shareholders too, but like Mark Zuckerberg is basically the center of Facebook. Here you can have a social network that is entirely owned by the users, for example. And so you, as a user, when you upload a picture or whatever, instead of agreeing to terms and conditions that say, whatever, Facebook can do all of these things with my images, you can instead say, these are the things I want you to be able to do in this social network that is decentralized. So that's kind of like a new addition. It's like the third evolution of the internet.
Yeah, so that's a really, really great segue into what the music sync technology that you're working on does. Because so for those of you who aren't familiar with music sync in the first place, this might be a little bit deep for you because you're still learning about music sync technology. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Or if you do raise your hand, since it's a little bit of a smaller group today, we might even be able to get to you in here. But in terms of music sync, so usually what you'll see is a music sync agent is responsible for, or in order to get your music into film and television, you need to get connected to a music supervisor. And in the past, and even currently, most artists who want their music in film and television are either directly connected to the producer or director, or they're directly to the connected with the music supervisor, or they have a music sync agent. So someone who takes a commission off of you licensing your music to a specific film, television show, or commercial, video game, etc. So what Steph is working on, and she's working on this really awesome technology, which essentially allows you to maintain, actually, Steph, maybe you can explain it because I don't want to get the explanation wrong. Could you tell us a little bit about the technology?
Yeah, sure. So the technology is a little bit like it's two-pronged, right? So the main thing is we do want, and right now, for example, a lot of the data of like who the copyright holders are and who are the publishers and all these parties, it's kind of proprietary to whatever these big libraries are. So like Maria was saying, like Sony and TV, they have their own library with all of their information. And then Universal has their own, and Warner Chappell has their own, and then there's other smaller publishers, but there isn't like a centralized or even a decentralized open source place where you can go and say, who are the parties involved here? And how can I license or clear this track? Like that's not available right now. And it's for us to do that retroactively, it's going to be really complicated and it's going to take a lot of time. But what our technology allows you to do from this point on is to create a blueprint or an open source kind of registration where you can say, this is the track, these are the splits, these are the people that are involved in the track, and this is how much of that percentage that they own. And then in this first iteration, we don't have a way for everyone to agree with a digital signature, but we do have a second iteration where everyone can agree to licensing terms or to the splits on chain, so that everything is recorded in this ledger that's immutable. So there's going to be a timestamp for it, which anything that gets recorded on the blockchain has a timestamp, and it's also going to be immutable. We're going to see who the people who decided to sign there are going to be like kind of like the co-creators of this track. Now you can in the future allocate your percentage to other people, because this happens all the time. People sell their catalogs for an influx of cash. You can do that, but it will be immutable because that first registration will tell you exactly who were the originators of the track. So that's one side of the technology where you can kind of just make the registration, make it available. And then on the other side, you'll be able to select from whatever. We're going to have multiple templates, licensing templates, and you can predetermine, like preset your prices and your parameters, like what are certain terms if you want to make, whatever section available or whatever. And then you can token gate, different versions of your track if people do want to license it. And if they hold that license, which is going to be a soul bound NFT, meaning that you cannot sell it. The person that buys this NFT license, that's it. Like that's the end of the relationship. This cannot be resold to someone else that can then exploit that license, which is very important. So once you buy that license, that should be the end of all of the paperwork that needs to be done. So there's no negotiation needed. You don't need to contact a lawyer. There shouldn't be a need for invoices or W-2s, because you literally have all the information that gets generated from this NFT license that you buy, from the parameters that the musician puts up as, you know, what they want available, and then what the buyer also puts up so that they can confirm. So it is a legally binding contract that gets signed on chain, kind of like a DocuSign, but it's on chain.
That's really cool. I would love to open the floor up to questions, because I saw Slozy had a question, and I'm sure a lot of you folks are curious about just, you know, music sync in general, and also what the differences are between this and this new technology. So what I'll do is I'm going to open the floor up to questions. If you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand. But Steph, I think this technology is really cool because it allows artists to essentially not have to go through this third party. It allows for music supervisors to also not have to go through the labels or even through all these different people, like the sync agent, the different clearance officers, and it prevents so many hands being in the pot. So yeah, I'd love to open the floor to questions. Maria, I see that you have a question. Feel free to ask it.
Yeah, I would love to see the technology, a demo, if you can show us something, or if there's anything.
Yeah, so
I would love to see it in action.
Yeah, so I can actually share a video with you. Like in our website, we have, I'm just going to put it here on the chat. You can see a video that our founder gets started. Sorry. And you can watch it on your own time. I can also show it to you, but it's 8 minutes long, so I don't want to take up that time. If you have questions, like, feel free to answer it. But yeah, you can check it out. We already have it live on a test net, and we are going to launch for beta very, very soon. So yeah, feel free to check out the website.
Cool. Slozy, I see you have a question. Go for it.
Yeah, so I have like a pretty, I'd say, decently strong background in the Web3 terminology and things like that. But I kind of got lost for a second there when you were explaining how it would work with different artists, like let's say collaborators on a track, right? So is that sort of like what you're saying is that everyone is signing off on the general creation of this NFT beforehand, and that's all recorded on chain? Or is it more like when somebody is purchasing this NFT, it's like a multi-sig type contract where then all these different wallets have to like agree on that?
So it's at the point of creation. Everyone right now, the way we have it is just one person can kind of input all of the splits as they come in. So the split agreement will have to be separate, but we do want to have a different iteration. That's what we're working on for version 2, where it'll work like a multi-sig and everyone agrees to the splits. And then they also agree to licensing terms being made available. So it's really cool because then people it'll be like a split sheet, but it'll be recorded on chain, and, you know, it will allow for multiple parties to sort of come to an agreement to this.
Got you. And I have just one more like question that's like with the NFT being soul bound. Why is that? Like, where is that choice coming from? I'm curious.
Well, basically, okay, so right now as NFTs work, some NFTs do allow you and give you all licensing terms and allow you to exploit whatever underlying IP is. But what hasn't been defined and hasn't been legally decided is like what happens to an IP that's already been exploited that gets sold to someone else. So say you buy an image and they allow you to use that for making products, and you create all this merch, and then you sell that NFT, but you still have all this merch that you are able to sell. So what normally happens usually with music catalogs is like all of these agreements get grandfathered in if the catalog is sold. So our main reason is we want to be able to honor those agreements. And if, for example, I grab a license for licensing a particular song and syncing a particular song on a movie, I shouldn't be able to sell that and then someone else can do the same thing because I will probably have already used it. You know what I mean? So like the artist should get paid. If someone else wants to use the same song, the artist should get paid again and buy another license. So that's why it is, because this is a legally binding document. And so it gets a little complicated when it transfers from one person to the other. So that's the decision. I mean, but that doesn't mean
It's
Yeah,
really
that's
interesting for sure, because like maybe you want to burn it or maybe you want to do soul band, but then if you burn it, where is it? Like also, yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
thank you for answering my question.
no
Yeah.
worries.
Thanks, Slozy. Also, Slozy, am I pronouncing it right? Is it Slozy or Slowzy?
Slowzy, yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're on it. You're on it.
Awesome. So there are a couple of other questions in the chat. Fatima says, so is there a certain degree of legal knowledge needed for this type of work, especially licensing? I can
I think it's lagging.
answer this one in terms of license. Did you lose me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, for a second you were lagging. But...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. So in terms of licensing your music, I would say definitely, I can't speak to the project that Steph is working on, but in Web 2, if you are signing any contracts, I'm always going to suggest that you include your attorney or your lawyer in it, just so that they can read the fine print for you. Steph, I'm not sure if you have any advice in terms of utilizing your technology.
Yeah, for us, we're actually most of our budget right now, like we're investing our budget in two big things. One is development, and the second thing is attorneys. And so we have hired attorneys who are very experienced in drafting licensing agreements. And as a bonus, and this is proprietary to us, is we're also adding explainers to the side of every single clause so that you're able to understand it. And even if you don't use our licensing terms, and maybe you have learned, oh, okay, so this particular paragraph means this. So that way it's a little bit easier for you to digest it, because we do know that sometimes hiring an attorney can be impossible. In the future, us as Legato, we do want to also be able to offer like office hours to the attorneys that consult with us, just so that you're able to answer any questions. And of course, like I can never recommend against having legal advice. Of course, hiring your own attorney is the best possible thing, but we do realize that from some artists, the cost is too prohibitive for them. So that's why we want to offer these options for them.
That's really awesome. I mean, Steph, I've already given you lots of accolades, but I do have to say that I love the fact that the technology and what you're building is very artist friendly. For those of you who are not as familiar with licensing, there is a lot of jargon in it because it's music supervision is technically on the film side. It's more on what is called the entertainment industry. The music industry operates we have different jargon. So the music industry, we have some of our own jargon. The label might say one thing. We say royalties on our side. The entertainment on the entertainment and film side, royalties mean something different to them. So it's really important for you to have an attorney, but sometimes that's not possible because attorneys can cost upwards of $300 to $700 an hour. So Steph, it's just really awesome to hear about what you're building, because there aren't too many platforms and technology platforms, especially in this day and age, that are artist focused. Hashtag Spotify. But I also see another question from Manuel, who says, can you give insight on the process of licensing for the newly released album by Beyonce? So Steph, did you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm not. So I have like follow-up questions to that question is like, what do you mean? Like licensing to be on the track, or licensing those tracks for use for yourself? Like you want to use them on a movie or something like that?
Yeah, Manuel, are you still in here? If you are, you can unmute yourself and ask. Manuel. I'm not sure if he's still in here. If not, that's okay.
That's for use. For if you're doing like a youth program or what have you, it's use. Right. To have the individual singing the songs that already been copywritten.
So okay. So then you want to do your own cover, correct?
No, what I'm saying, if right now in Toledo we have May 6th, we're launching Toledo Top Talent, and we're giving youth the opportunity to display their talents and their gifts. However, the question for me is, is there a platform that we can say if they want to sing a Beyonce song, the latest one, and they're really good at singing, but the licensing regarding that, is there some sort of coverage if it's a nonprofit? Like, are you guys like working in that area, or, you know?
Yeah, so we are going to make different types of licenses available. Our goal is to have 50 different templates for you to choose from, and then artists can choose that parameter that is for profit or not for profit. And anything that's being signed on the blockchain is legally binding, right? So even if someone misrepresents themselves and it turns out that they are a for profit versus not for profit, it's easy to see it because it's publicly available and it's open source. So there should be no dispute because literally it would be on the blockchain. Everyone could find it. Now, for your particular question, right now, as it works, is you would need to go to the publishers of the track, and you can find that. I think if you use Sound Exchange, you can find some of the information of the publishers, and you'd have to reach out to them and contact them and clear the track. Like they would have to give you permission.
Even if you're a nonprofit.
Yes, correct.
That's our issue. Right now, we're using individuals who are already covered. So that's why we're in this space, to be able to see if you guys have that currently.
No, we do. I mean, we're just a technology right now, so we're not there yet. That is the dream, though. We do want to have everyone's catalog on Legato.
Manuel, Maria actually dropped where you would look at. If you look on ASCAP and BMI, you should be able to search.
Yeah. We're there. We've been told through individuals who are experienced how to get around it, but you know what you guys are providing, not get around it, but how to present and move forward
in order to get the license. It sounds like.
Yeah, like, so the news media already have, like, if you own the news media, they already have something. YouTube, which you have presented earlier, they already have it. You just have to go through and do their list. But being able
oftentimes,
I apologize.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. I wanted to say oftentimes, well, I will say if you are trying to license any kind of Beyonce music, it will probably be very
We're not trying to license it. It's just the kids that we're given opportunity to share their gifts and talents. They may like a Beyonce song that they're going to be sharing. May 6th, we have a whole Toledo Top Talent situation. And so licensing, those kids are singing those songs because they like them. And so we were looking for how to protect ourselves without being, so it's almost like the American Idol of Toledo, but it's not American Idol. We're providing resources to these kids, and we're a nonprofit, but we're covering all costs. It's just that piece of being in a position to find talent of individuals who would otherwise have the opportunity to have that platform without our resources.
I see.
So is this going to be is this going to be on TV? Is it going to be on demand?
We've been able to utilize the FCC and the resources that the news media provided, but we would like to be in a position where if we're somewhere and the news media is not covering, we're not going to get sued because these kids are so good that we need to get covered. But we've been doing our research. We know about those too, but we sat in this meeting to be able to see what you are offering. That's pretty much it.
Got it. Yeah. And the other thing too is, like, on social media, what might happen is you might get a claim. So you won't be able to monetize, the video, and you might get a claim from the copyright holders. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to be viewed. So that would be the other thing that I would say. So you as a nonprofit might not have to go out and seek out the license yourselves, because you're right, you would be covered under the news media license, and then on social media you'll get a claim. But just be aware of that, that could happen. And just don't worry, it shouldn't be a strike. It should definitely be a claim. So if it is a strike, then definitely you need to reach out to someone so it gets removed.
Yeah, no, I apologize, but I'm so thankful that this platform is here to be able to have a discussion. I understand through a lot of research that I didn't know before about licensing and singing things until I started doing the research when we started wanting to help youth and community to reduce crime and give them opportunity to have a way to express their talents. We didn't know that it was going to be so huge like this. And it is huge. We're talking about the Hispanic community. We're talking about the minorities. We're talking about people who, young kids who have gifts and songs they love. But then I had to do a lot of research. We're doing a lot of research around it. And we're a nonprofit, but we have sponsors and all these things. And we've been able to kind of skate by because they know what it takes to do it. But for us specifically, you have individuals that are going on TikTok, and connecting to our source. So we want to be able to protect ourselves. And so we are trying to educate ourselves on what it looked like, because these youth are talented, from Marianne and you go ahead and say it, Manuel. They are amazing. They've been submitting their videos. It's amazing. I didn't know it was going to be this big. So we were just trying to give youth opportunity to celebrate their gift and their talent in music, So that's
awesome.
what Manuel.
Hello. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Manuel, thank you so much for sharing, and I'm so excited for your venture. I was also going to add, and I'm going to move on to any other additional questions. But Manuel, if you are looking for assistance with clearances, you can always reach out to music supervisors too. So just keep that in mind. Music supervisors they're known for clearing music. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question. So anybody else have any additional questions that they'd like to ask?
I'm curious about the sort of also, what was the name of your product again, Stephanie? I apologize.
It's called Legato.
Legato. What's the sort of timeline looking like for you guys right now? And what's the path forward looking like, a little roadmap?
Yeah, we want to launch our beta it's probably going to be next month now. But we want to launch our beta, and we want to do an open beta right away. We don't want to do a closed beta just because we want people to be able to test it as much as possible. We're also working with a lot of people that have dormant catalog that isn't being monetized. And so that's our goal right now, is just bring libraries in of there's artists that we've spoken to that 90% of their catalog is basically not being used. And they would love for it to be available for anyone who wants to license it. So at the same time that we're building this technology, and our launch is supposed to be next month, we're also trying to make sure we have lots of good product for people to license right away.
And what is the sort of functionality going to look like on this initial rollout beta?
If you watch our video demo, you'll see it. It's okay. Really great. And just so you know, our goal at Legato is we don't want to be a music library where people go there and sift through music. We want to be invisible. So our goal is to be on your website, and for you to tell people you can come to my website to license my music. The dream is to literally have sync or licensing buttons available wherever people can find any sort of IP. We're starting with music, but you can potentially also create licensing terms for your visual art and even patents in the future. Lovely. All right, thanks.
That's really cool. I think it's awesome also, Steph, that you won't have it's not like Legato has its hands in the pot, and you're not necessarily, it's not just a music library where folks are looking through thousands and thousands and thousands of music just to find the cheapest option or anything like that. Artists can go on there and create something for themselves and decide on the terms themselves, which oftentimes music supervisors, because they're so far removed from the artists, don't always, they're not always looking for the best music or the best music deal. They're looking for what's best for the film side or the television side. And so that's really awesome. I see. Oh, go ahead, Steph.
No, I was going to say, and if you watch the demo, you'll see how easy it is to create your new licensing term. So even if a music supervisor were to find it and say, hey, this is maybe out of my price range, or this is the budget that I have, you can create a new license and make it available fairly quickly. So it shouldn't be too complicated.
That's awesome. William, I see your hand up. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah, hi. How's it going, guys? Yeah, I go by William, or my artist name is Lil Casino. I'm driving right now in San Diego. So I'm not looking at the camera exactly. But yeah, so what's it called? So I have a question basically related to what I'm doing, just because I've been making all these songs, but I use what's it called? They're unexclusive or non-exclusive beats that I purchase on like BeatStars and stuff like that. Just as kind of in general related to Legato eventually, maybe just related to sync licenses, but do I need to have exclusive rights to these beats, or is unexclusive okay? And then would I be able to like do 50-50 with the beat maker sort of thing? Yeah, I apologize if this is sort of like a low level question and you guys are way beyond that, but yeah, I just kind of wondering what I should do.
No, you can always ask early stage questions. It's always okay here.
And I'm Filipino, yes, by the way.
You said you're Filipino. Yeah. Cool. Steph, do you want to maybe chat about, well, I don't know if you want to start with how a sync license typically works, just from like the Web 2 space, and then jump into the technology, or feel free to jump in.
Well, the first thing I wanted to say is in the technology, you can set your splits however you want. You know what? I think I might have to like defer back to you, because I'm not sure that there's really an issue if you're using non-exclusive beats. Obviously, as long as they're part of a greater thing. If you're literally just copy and pasting that non-exclusive beat, then you're complicated, things. But if you've added enough to it, like to build a track, then you've created a new thing, right? You create or a derivative product. So I think that's where you can actually go and license that derivative product itself. And what traditionally happens is you would create, so when you create a track, you would register it, and then you have an ISRC and an ISWC. And what happens is the music supervisor would send you a contract that you agree in. You're going to input all of that information of the registered track, where when people go and get that code, that ISRC code, or ISRC, which implies code, they would have they would find all of that information and know to contact all of the other collaborators, like if you have any other songwriters or anyone else who's collaborated with you. And then they would need an invoice from everyone for their portion of it, depending on what splits are. And they would all need to submit W-2s. And once all of that is done, and you have all signed the contract, then you will get your payment. And I mean, depending on whatever the agreement is, if it's net 30 or whatever. And that's how the whole licensing process is done. However, I have seen artists that have used literally, like, they have bought non-exclusive beats, and all they have done is added like maybe some words after a while. And so then there's an issue, because that track, when it gets fingerprinted, it gets flagged by multiple different copyright holders. So that's where it gets complicated. So you really need to make sure that when you use a non-exclusive beat, that you've really created something new, so that the fingerprinting tools, and so that the fingerprinting tools don't flag it to something else. And there are tracks out there that have had that issue, and it just gets really complicated.
Definitely. Okay, well, I appreciate it.
This is also a great question for many of you in the audience, because I know that some of you are not creating what's called one-stop music, where you're creating the beat, you're creating the lyrics, and you're performing it. So I will suggest to many of you that if you are not creating one-stop music, that you have in writing that you own, or you have the rights to license the music. So if you are utilizing someone else's beats, then just be mindful that a lot of music supervisors won't even touch it. This isn't necessarily just related to the technology that Steph is creating with her team. This is just in general, a lot of music supervisors, for those of you who have not, worked with music supervisors just yet, a lot of music supervisors do not want to touch any music where you don't know who owns the rights to get it licensed. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, one-stop music is always really great because there's only one person who's in charge of licensing the music.
Definitely.
So,
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they call it like a non-exclusive license. I think that's like I said non-exclusive rights earlier, but I think it's called like a non-exclusive license. So I don't know if that's what you mean by that, or if you really need
and you also have to look into the licensing rights of BeatStars because different producers have different rules for their beats.
Yeah.
So just
That's
be
true.
mindful of that too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe I'll reach out to them.
That's helpful.
Okay, that's great. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, no problem. Drive safe. Cool.
Yeah, I'm on some.
Awesome. Cool. So Raza, I see you have a question. Go for it.
Yeah, I had a question about just overall, a sync question in general. So let's say you have like a certain portion of your catalog and an exclusive deal with a sync library or like agency. I've heard before, like music supervisors, I don't know if it's just strictly with like that particular song or if it's like overall, just like long story short, like, is it smart to just keep working with the same people that you have like exclusive catalog with and keep building through that catalog, or would it be doing too much if you like say you had a couple songs that weren't signed with them already, but you wanted to go to a different agency and see what they could do, then vice versa, like just moving with different tracks, or should you try to keep it under the same umbrella, if that makes sense? Because I've heard
Do you mean working with different sync agents?
Yeah. Like just like say, because I'm like, let's say like there's like different like I don't want to call them agencies basically.
Yeah.
So like would it be, if you have like say you had like a certain part of your catalog that's already exclusively signed with one, if you had chose different music outside of that catalog, would it be wise to go to different agencies and sign it with them as long as it's not those same tracks?
Gotcha. Steph, I can jump in on this one.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I would suggest, if you are planning on working with sync agents, that you're very mindful of the fact that if you work with multiple sync agents, they can be pitching to the same music supervisors. And when that happens, the music supervisors don't even want to touch it, because then it gets a little bit cloudy in terms of who has the rights to actually get the music licensed. So say you have one song being pitched by one agency, and then that song is being pitched by another. If a music supervisor gets that same song from two different agents, they'll just say they're not going to use it.
I was just speaking on like different songs, but like not the same song signed with two different people, but like say if I already have like a catalog that's signed under one agency, and if I had like a different portion of my catalog signed with a different agency, would that look weird? That's what I was saying.
I see. Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. In terms of licensing different songs to different agencies, the way that works is like you might have a non-exclusive deal with one sync agency. You can still you might be licensing a portion of your catalog, and then you can license it to another. Some of the pros and cons to doing that would be: cons, you have your music in different places, so you're utilizing different, this could be pro and a con. You're utilizing different resources, so you don't know who is pitching what all the time, unless you have a really great administrative system for yourself. In terms of pros, it could be good if you are trying to test out the waters and see which sync agents are going to be the best for you. But one benefit of having all of your music in one sync agency's catalog is, if you have a really great relationship with you, then they can help continue pitching your music because they do have that relationship with you. So it really depends on what your preferences are. Biggest no-no would be or not biggest no-no, but you would want to avoid not having them pitch the same song. So making sure that it's very clear that you're not pitching, that two people are not pitching the same song.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's up to you if you want to license your music. That's why they do have non-exclusive licenses too, so that you can pitch your music or catalog elsewhere. But you also have to read the fine print to make sure that it doesn't say that your whole catalog is being pitched, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We have time for about one more question. I know that it's getting late. I see some people falling asleep on their desk. So if you do have questions and we're not getting to them, then feel free to just drop them in the chat. We'll try to answer them. And if not, then you always can hit me up. I'm sure Steph has tons of questions in her chat all the time. So don't bombard her, but be mindful. Like if you do have a question, you can introduce yourself. And when we do have time, I'm sure we'll do our best to try to get back to you. Amelia, I'm going to go ahead and let you ask your question. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, sorry. This might be a stupid question. I don't know if anybody else asked this question, or maybe I missed it. But how do you get like a sync agency like to notice you or to like keep working with you? Like, is it kind of like you just submit demos to them and they like, you know, pick that relationship with you, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, Steph, actually, this might be a good question to talk about how you're able to take on different artist catalogs, because you're not necessarily acting exactly like a sync agency, but you are licensing music through the technology. So could you maybe jump in?
Yeah, it's just so interesting to me because I found that like different sync agencies and even music supervisors themselves are functioning as sync agencies right now. So what happens is, and this might be so silly, is I've just recently started connecting with music supervisors, and there are so many briefs that kind of go unmet because there's just not enough music for them, or they might be able to find the perfect song, but they just aren't able to get in contact with everyone that they need to. So I honestly would just say, like, if you're watching a TV show and you think, hey, my song would kind of go great here, like they use this other artist song, but like my song would also work, like literally look up the music supervisor, and sometimes the music supervisor is connected to sync agents, and write to them and say like, hey, I was watching this, I really like the choices that you're making, like as a music supervisor, here's what you think. Or if you know that they work with a sync agent, then reach out to the sync agent and say like, hey, I was watching this and I think this would be perfect for this scene. And that usually works really well. Now for us, what we have in our Telegram chat is we're starting to build a channel, right? So we're music supervisors or whoever wants to use music can put briefs out there and then have them share. We're in the very early stages because we haven't launched our product yet. And we want to make sure that when we do have these demands coming in, that we're able to meet them with catalog that's available to be licensed right away. But the dream is for us to have that exchange happening. There's a lot of great artists out there that are literally doing what I just told you, like pounding the pavement, forming great relationships with sync agents and even music supervisors, because music supervisors also have their own little network, right? There's the Guild of Music Supervisors. We have a very close relationship with them, and they're often, talking to us about what their pain points are. Their biggest pain point, they've told us, is that sometimes they find the perfect song on Spotify, and when it comes time to license it, they're just unable to do so because there's not any information, and they basically ask for that sync button. And so we're like, okay, let's make a sync button, let's make it available for everyone. So that's a good way to start. What is also great is sometimes when you're an independent artist, you kind of have a leg up because you own everything. So your process is a little bit easier. So you'll be surprised how many music supervisors appreciate that. It's like, oh, that's great. I can just license with you and kind of be done with it instead of having to go through all these parties. So you might have a little bit of an advantage there that you're unaware of.
Okay, cool.
And Amelia, also to answer your question really quickly, I was going to say, if you are working with, depending on if you go directly through this to the source, which is the music supervisors or the directors and producers of the film, television show, or what have you, or if you're trying to go to sync agents, the difference is that if you pitch to yourself to a music supervisor, then that's directly for you to license the music with them. If you're pitching yourself to a sync agent, then those sync agents are looking for artists like you because they receive briefs very regularly from music supervisors. So all you have to do is just reach out to a sync agency and say, hey, I'm interested in your services to have my music pitched to music supervisors and different projects. I'd love to sit down with you and discuss what that looks like. So some music sync agents, and this is for everybody in here who has not had experience with sync agents, they will usually take anywhere from 15 to 20% of the commission from the project. And that's pretty standard. Some for commercial licenses will take anywhere up to 60%, 50 to 60%. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you all can reach out to sync agents yourself or music supervisors. Keep in mind, if you're reaching out to music supervisors and you don't have all your ducks in a row, they might not be as excited to continue working with you. So you will want to make sure that you have all the paperwork, like your split sheets. You'll want to, if you have different artists and producers on the track, you'll want to make sure that in writing you do have the rights to license the music, to go get the music license. But yeah, I would definitely say that those are just a couple of tips in terms of pitching yourself. There are a lot of other tips on our YouTube, which we don't have enough time to go down the entire rabbit hole of music sync and music supervision. And what Lavaboy/Dre said, do y'all recommend certain sync agencies for specific types of music? Yes, and go check out our YouTube in order to look at some of them. So cool. We are actually just at time. Reem, I know you had a question, and I think you were asking about, was it sampling? Was that the question that you had? So I'll just answer that very quickly. In terms of sampling other people's music, yes, actually, let me just jump back to the question. Actually, go ahead, Reem. Ask your question and then we'll answer it, and then we'll hop
It's
off.
okay. Well, okay. I was just wondering because I use Logic and they have like Apple loops, and sometimes I use some of the loops that they have in there, like supplemented by other things that I create like on my own. So they're not just like standing alone, but is that kind of like the same rules apply to when you buy something from like BeatStars because it's not exclusive and stuff, or are those like a free for all?
No, if you're just utilizing some of the tools that are available in the DAW, then you should be fine. It's not the same as sampling or utilizing a beat from BeatStars or YouTube.
Okay. So it wouldn't be the same thing that like if someone else got their song, say they were using the same like beat or loop as I did, and they licensed it and stuff, like, and then I tried to license something using the same track,
You
and maybe
wouldn't license the loop, you would license the song.
yeah, but it like that wouldn't get flagged or anything for copyright if it was like they're like, hey, this is the same beat, or this is like
If it's the
there's a
same,
component
yeah.
in the song that's being used.
Yeah,
That's
if
like,
it's the same, there. So actually, Ezra just answered it. Logic loops are royalty free. Yeah, so the loops are royalty free. So you can use the loops. Just you would have to add to it. So what Steph was saying
Right.
earlier.
So you would like if you're using it you wouldn't just use the loop like as a track and submit that as your song, correct? Like you have other tracks you've added to it.
yeah,
So it like forms a complete song. So yeah, so that's what you would license. You wouldn't just license that one little bit. Now, sometimes they do ask for instrumental versions, so just be mindful of that. The more you remove from a track, and if you're just going back to the source, then I don't know why a music supervisor would wanna just license that, but just be mindful of that.
Okay. I think I was kind of thinking that if they just heard a sample in it and they're like, this is the same thing as this other song, they'd be like, I'm not even gonna touch it, type of thing.
No,
you should be fine.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, Reem. Awesome. Well, I definitely loved having you on, Steph, and it was so awesome to have you. Well, you explained more than more than what we had expected. You talked about music sync and supervision. You talked about licensing and clearances. You talked about the music technology that your team is building, which is really awesome. I just wanted to get a check with everybody. You all know the deal. If you've been to our Finesse Media events, if you enjoyed today's event and you learned something, please unmute yourself and give us a little woo woo.
Woo, woo.
Cool. That is royalty free, everybody. So if anyone wants to include that in the song, you're welcome to. But yeah, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining us today. This is such an awesome conversation. Do you have any last minute or anything else you want to add about the technology that you're working on, or any last pieces of advice that you have for independent artists going forward?
No, the biggest thing is you feel free to reach out to me. I'm sometimes a little slow to get back to DMs, but I always answer them. So feel free to reach out either through Twitter or Instagram. And then if you want to check out Legato, check out the website I put over here. I'm also going to put it on the contact sheet so you can reach out. And if you have any issues just getting in touch with them, I'll also put my email so you can reach out to me as well.
Cool. I just dropped the contact sheet again for everybody. Again, feel free to reach out to people, but do not spam anybody. And if you do spam anybody, do not tell them that it came from Finesse Media, because it didn't come from me. So, but I really appreciate everybody's time for joining us this week. We are planning more music sync and music supervision events, since we know that that's a really great way for artists to continue building up their revenue. So if you ever have any suggestions or have questions, always feel free to reach out to myself or info@finesse.media. And yeah, we are so grateful for you, Steph. Thank you again so much for coming, and we will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.